Some days you're balancing your child. Some days you're balancing yourself more. Some days you're balancing your spouse more. It's not like every day it's all even.
Hi, Skin Friend. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Skin Reel. This week, I'm super excited to have one of my colleagues, Dr. Tsung, on today. She is an emergency medicine trained physician, and she is also a NASA flight surgeon. Okay, that sounds super, super impressive, and that's because it is. She actually is in charge of taking care of our astronauts' health and performance from before they go into space, while they're in space, and then afterwards. So that is a huge undertaking. And so she is all about being efficient and helping people be at peak performance. Not only does she do that, she is also an entrepreneur. She has a podcast called The Productivity MD, and she also does coaching. And did I mention she's a mom of a 19-month-old, and she has a baby on the way, the time of this recording, just a few weeks away. And she is also a wife and real estate investor. So how does she possibly get it done? Okay, Dr. Tsung has 24 hours in the day, just like all of us, yet she is able to get so much done. And if you are listening to this feeling like, I'm just treading water, I can barely keep my head up, I'm just spinning my wheels, you are not alone. I have felt this way too. I feel this way frequently, actually. And just talking with Dr. Tsung, she has given me so many great tips and pearls for how I can be more productive and efficient in my life. And so I wanted her to come on the podcast today to share her insight as a productivity coach, someone who is involved in peak performance, how we, no matter what we do, whether we are moms and CEOs of our households, whether we are professionals, whether we are business people, lawyers, doctors, in the arts, whatever, how you can get rid of the distractions in your life, the constant busyness, but yet never really moving the needle forward to the goals that you really want to set for yourself. So this episode is for everyone out there who is feeling overwhelmed, bogged down, and needs some tips and pearls for how to increase their performance and productivity in life. You are not going to want to miss this episode. Dr. Tsung, thank you so much for being here. I'm really thrilled to have this conversation with you because I know you're going to give a lot of value to our audience, but also because I really need this episode because I need some productivity hacks as a busy mom, like a lot of the listeners like you are. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Mina. I really appreciate the time here. It's going to be really fun.
Now, I introduced you earlier before we started recording together, but I know I didn't do it justice because you do so many different things. You wear so many different hats. Can you just give us a little brief overview of what you do day in and day out?
So my background is in emergency medicine, critical care, and I did another fellowship in aerospace medicine. So right now, I am employed full-time at NASA as their aerospace medicine flight surgeon. So what that means is that I am the physician who takes care of astronauts. Right now, I have an assigned astronaut on a mission on International Space Station, and we're with them before launch through training, 6 months on the International Space Station, and then put rehab. So that's
wow. Can we just pause right there? I mean, that is super, super impressive. Like, no big deal. You're just taking care of our astronauts in space, and that's amazing. But anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, I just felt like that needed some recognition.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I would say it's definitely extreme telemedicine and also concierge primary care on steroids because you get two docs to one assigned mission astronaut too. So I'm the deputy surgeon for one of them. So yeah, it's an amazing job. It's fun. It's unique. You learn many disciplines. And yeah, it took me, when I was 19, I set the goal and it took me over 15 years to get here. So I'm super happy with where I'm at.
Wow.
And I don't edge around it. Go ahead.
At 19, you thought I want to be like a NASA flight surgeon.
At 19, I said I was going to do whatever it takes to work for NASA. And I knew I was going to med school.
Where did that interest in NASA and space, where did that come from? Is this just something you've always been passionate about?
I think when I was like younger, like 5 or 6, my mom bought me encyclopedias that had the planets that talked about the astronauts. So I had always been interested. And then I moved to Houston and went to Space Center Houston when I was 9. And so it just became more and more fascinated. So at 19, I knew my goal was to get to med school. And I said, no matter what happens with med school, whatever specialty I go into, then I was going to work for NASA. So yeah, I think after 15 years, finally, I'm here now. So it took a while.
In contrast, I tried astronaut ice cream at the Air and Space Museum in DC when I was a kid. And I was like, this is not ice cream. I don't think I'm cut out to be an astronaut. So very different paths. And yet here we are together. But yeah, so very cool. So you take care of our astronauts who are in space before, during, and after. What else do you do during your day?
In general, I also, during the month, I would work part-time in the ER, part-time in the ICU. I'm also a podcast show host for Productivity MD, and I'm the founder for Productivity MD, which is peak performance and productivity coaching. I am surrounded by people who wish to have peak performance, and I just have a love for doing things efficiently and to be in my zone of genius as much as possible. And that really scaled much faster when I had my first baby, when I really had to eliminate and delegate and really cherish like the time with baby and husband. And then I also did real estate investing, which I have pivoted from active to passive and passed on the active side to my husband so I can focus in coaching.
It's so true that there's nothing like having a child to really ramp up the need to be productive. And I think a lot of the people listening are busy moms, busy parents, professionals, juggling a lot of different hats. And you don't necessarily have to be a NASA flight surgeon, right, to be busy. Everyone's busy, right? We all have a lot going on. And that's really why I wanted to have you on the show today, because I feel like a lot of people, I know myself included, can get really overwhelmed with all the stuff we have to get done. And then a lot of times as moms, we put ourselves last, right? And we're not taking care of ourselves. And we forget that in order to take care of others, we also have to take care of ourselves. So that's really why I want you here to just kind of give us your pearls on all of that. But yeah, it's so true that having a kid, that's really going to put sort of the magnifying mirror on your life and what you need to do.
When my baby was 2 months, that's when my whole identity as a type A person, as a high performer who can, reach any goals, everything shifted. All of a sudden I was, pumping, sleeping, feeding, cleaning, pumping. I had no time to do any because we were underwriting real estate deals that was multi-units. There's some other, still doing the podcast, doing the coaching. But I felt like that those 2 months, I just couldn't make any progress. In order to put self-care first, I had to leverage other people for time. And, I was lifting 3 times a week and I couldn't do that anymore. I was just doing a lot of housework, cleaning and stuff like that. So hiring a virtual assistant was the path to setting me free. Hiring a house manager / nanny was another path to setting me free at 2 months, to where now I'm 10x more productive than before and still able to work out 3 times a week, have my chiropractor biweekly, my sensory deprivation float.
What is a sensory deprivation float? That sounds like an astronaut thing.
Actually, it's not a NASA thing, actually. You're basically in a pod. It's my number one recovery hack or number one parasympathetic hack, if that makes sense. So where a lot of us are in fight or flight mode, in sympathetic mode, especially physicians working in the clinic, ER, ICU, and our cortisol or our stress hormone is up all the time. And in order to become less reactive with your family, your friends, yourself, to get into that parasympathetic state, I go into a sensory deprivation pod. So it's a pod or a tank, which as much Epsom salt as you basically float like the Dead Sea, like you're in the Dead Sea, or in the womb is what they say. You don't have any clothes on. It's just yourself or your spouse. You can do it together. initially there's music, but they turn it off. There's light, but they turn it off. So the point is no sensory, no senses are stimulated.
And how long are you in there?
60 minutes. So there's no gravity, no sight, no smell, no taste, no sound. And that way, when you don't have all the stimulation, then your brain waves drop from beta to alpha, then to theta state, and maybe to delta. But essentially, that's when ideas can form, the aha moment comes, and sometimes you fall asleep. And I've done mind maps of like 8-week courses before. I've done meditation, forgiveness. I've gone back to see images of me as a fetus before, or I basically planned out like my whole year in there before. But what happens after, for me at least, I feel like time doesn't matter. I'm always in a state, like I'm in a state of non-reactivity for maybe the rest of the day. And then my tone is like neutral instead of charged, if that makes sense. And it just makes for a better wife and better mom, and just everything just flows through you, and like nothing really matters. Everything will be okay kind of feeling.
Wow. Super cool. I'll have to check that out. I'm sure we have that here in Atlanta. But I totally get that feeling of flight or fight, where sometimes I just feel like I'm go, 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 go. And I don't even have a second to breathe. I feel like my heart is racing, and I'm constantly trying to put out one fire, then the next fire, then the next fire. And then we've got our phone, things popping up, distractions, notifications. So I totally get that. Paring away all the sensory things in our life to help you think could be super, super powerful. But I would love for like the average person, right, who maybe it does not have access to a sensory deprivation chamber. What would you recommend to someone like, say, a busy mom who is feeling like they can't keep their head up? They are spinning their wheels, but getting nowhere. Like, where do you even begin?
I would say it really depends. If you can outsource as much as possible, I would say that is step one. Like if you have entrepreneurial endeavors you're trying to take, or not even that, or if you really just want more quality time with your kids or have date nights with your husbands, if you can really find somebody to help you and outsource, like I've talked to a client who was spending 17 hours a week on household tasks. You know, that's like laundry, meal prepping, cleaning, etc. Lots of kids, lots of laundry and folding them. And so imagine if you can outsource and free up 17 hours a week, then you would, number one, have the time to free up your bandwidth, mental bandwidth to tackle everything else, like planning a fun trip, or sometimes it's important that you have to coordinate with the kids' schools or extracurricular activities and things like that. Anything that is repetitive that you don't like to do, find a way to outsource. Now, if you don't have a way to outsource it, I would say if you can eliminate it to make it simpler, maybe that's another way, like, for little kids, like less toys out and about to like mess things up, like the Montessori way, you only have like 8 books instead of all the books.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. And then my kids see me trying to take stuff away and they're like, no. But yeah, the outsourcing is huge. And I'll just share this story that even a couple of years ago, I was cleaning my house. I always clean my house ever since I went away to college and everything, mostly because I couldn't afford to pay someone to clean my house. And also I didn't live in anything bigger than a small apartment. And then when I had children and everything, I remember saying, well, I'm going to still clean my house because I want my children to know how to clean a house. And I was like, it's going to be exercise. And then what I realized was every other Saturday, I'm spending half the day, if not more, cleaning my house. And that was taking away from time I could be with my kids and my family. And of course, they're, little at the time and they weren't doing a very good job. So essentially, I'm doing it all. And I realized like this isn't getting me to the goal of relaxing, spending good quality time with my family. And I'd love to just bring this up because I know a lot of people are going to say the cost, right? It's expensive and you're a doctor, so you can afford it. So what is sort of your response to that?
I would say you would take a look at your own hourly rate and then compare it to an hourly rate of somebody you can hire. So if your own hourly rate is higher than that, like if you can hire somebody for $20 an hour, you make $50 an hour or $30 an hour, then technically you are saving money in a way by outsourcing it out. And then it just makes even more sense the higher your own hourly rate goes. And how much is the time that you place? What's the hourly rate that you would place on spending time with your kids? What about hourly rate? What's the quantity you place on spending time with your husband? To have a date night, to have like quality time to talk and plan things. And if you're working on some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor or project or passion project, the cost of you not hiring help is basically, it not only impacts you when you can't get this project off the ground that can benefit a lot of people, it impacts all of the other people you could have benefited if you had just been able to outsource the things you don't like to do.
One thing I've kind of learned too, because that's sort of the first thing people think of is, well, I can't afford that. I can't do that. It's too much money. But when you think about it, you're already spending that money on those services. It's just your hourly rate, your time being spent on it. So it's not really a matter of, am I going to spend the money on it or not? You essentially are spending the money on it. And that's the money of your time and your hourly rate. So that's a great point. And I think people just have to sort of reframe that to realize like, you're spending it one way or the other. So is that really how you want to spend your time? And tasks and chores that I really hate, other people love, and vice versa. So there's someone out there who really enjoys picking up and decluttering and things like that, if that's what drives you crazy, or helping with meal prep. So yeah, I think that's something I've really learned later, but learning is to just really delegate. I hated cooking dinners on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. And so now I have someone who helps me, because I hated that feeling of having to race home. Everyone's hungry, we're tired, and then having to start meal prep and cooking. And so that's been just a game changer, having someone help me with that personally. And in the past, I would have thought, oh, that's just outrageous to think I would have someone help me. But in the long run, it's been one of the best things I've done.
Sometimes you don't necessarily need somebody to help you. Like we've ordered from Ice Age Meals before, which is like healthier, paleo, organic food. That's meal prep. That's actually good portion. That's ready for you. So that's another form of outsourcing as well. But I will say hiring a house manager and if you have your own chef, that definitely would free up your bandwidth to create whatever you need to create.
No, don't have a chef per se, but yes, and actually our nanny is sort of wears many hats as a house manager, and she's an amazing cook. And so we've been spoiled with that too. I also love your idea of eliminate. And I think this is something people don't really think of. And in our busy go world, how much of the stuff that we're doing do we really need to be doing? And I talk about this a lot with skincare. I find that people just way overdo it. And one of the things I really encourage people to do is just kind of eliminate the noise, cancel the noise, stop following people who are always just telling you to buy stuff and more, make you feel bad. So yeah, a lot of these tasks, do we really need to do them? Do we really need to, run ourselves ragged trying to do all these things? And maybe instead of spending money to have someone help you, just eliminate it. What are some of the tasks like you've eliminated in your life?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The first thing you would do is actually eliminate, and then you delegate the things that you actually need to do. Yes, that's a very good point. So, it has to do with elimination. That also has to do with focus, right? There's two different ways to go about it. There were so many things that we want to do, so many projects we want to start. We want to have self-care. We want to cater to our spouse and have date nights, and our kids. We want their education to be this way, extracurricular. And then we have like our work and etc. So, and then we have like so many things that we want to start with our work maybe, or so many things we want our kids to do. So anyway, so it's about like focusing on just 5 things, 5 major areas. I always tell my clients per year. So self, spouse, significant other, if there's one, kids, if you have any, and maybe you can focus on 2 business. And within that, you just really dive really deep on 1 or 2 goals for the year. And that's a form of elimination in general. So it kind of decreases your mental clutter. And like, oh, I have to do this and do this and do this. And no, you really have 1 goal and maybe 2 that you're focusing on to move the needle. And then you eliminate distractions after that. So what I mean is, in order to actually make progress on your goals, you eliminate all distractions in the morning and you just focus on doing whatever it takes to move the needle on that top 1 or 2 goals. So, as an example, I eliminated checking my phone, checking texts, checking email first thing in the morning. Typically, my reach outs, my calls are in the afternoon, other than work, like work meetings. That can be morning or evening, but I get up, 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I have 1 to 2 hour window focus time, undistracted time before the baby wakes up. And then the night before, I already set my top 3 priorities to work on right when I wake up. So typically I'm taking a course, I'm learning, I'm drafting something, I'm reading something, creating slides, creating like a webinar content, something like deep work, maybe sometimes like even finance, Excel spreadsheets. And I used to do underwriting, back then when I was doing active real estate during that time. So that's one thing I eliminated. Another thing is eliminating, if you want to do it, eliminating color from your phone.
Oh, yeah. You showed me that.
Yeah, so my phone is in grayscale. You make your phone boring so you're not getting the dopamine hits. So you don't get as distracted. I eliminated and it's easier if you have a personal phone and a business phone.
Yeah, your boss may not want you ignoring and turning off his or her notifications, huh?
You can basically turn off everything except for like maybe the 1 and 2 that you need. So I don't have text notifications. I don't have because this is my personal phone, I don't have badges. I don't have anything drop down. I don't have previews. So I batch check my email into this inbox category and everything's on the second page, not on my homepage. This is what the homepage looks like.
That was a huge hack that you shared with me, is just simply moving my email so I didn't see how many unread emails I had, moving it to the second page and not reflexively checking my email as soon as I wake up and just saying I'm going to check it 3 times a day. And, if someone needs me, they're going to call me, they're going to text me, they're going to get a hold of me, but I don't need to be checking my email for that dopamine hit every, minute.
No, I agree. And you will realize later that actually not checking your email like every hour, nothing really happened.
Totally. Actually, that you are so right on. I was like, wait a minute, like nothing's like fallen through the cracks. Nothing's urgent has missed my reading. And yeah, it's like the world's still going around just because I haven't checked it compulsively so many times. So I love that. And I thank you for that hack.
Yeah, of course. And I would say, if you're just starting to do this, it's when you're sitting down to do some deep work, I would take the phone out of your office or wherever you're working. That's what I had to do. And I would set a Pomodoro timer, which is like, I just use a kitchen timer so I don't touch electronics like phones. And then 25-minute work time, 5-minute break, 25-minute work, 5-minute break. And then after 4 cycles, you look out maybe at nature or something and then begin again. And if you can just do that top 3 priorities before everybody wakes up, you would have won already before 7 or 8. So then whatever comes at you through the day would not stress yourself out. And you're like, oh, I'm already behind. And this is coming up because you're already done for the day. That's the ideal goal.
I totally find that to be the case with kids, that I need to get it done in the morning because as the day unfolds, who knows what's going to happen, who's going to need me. And when I have that early morning time, it's just for me. No one can take it away. And then I do feel more set up for the day versus hitting my snooze a bunch of times, starting the day running behind, upset that the kids are taking too long, et cetera. We all know how that goes, right?
Yeah. And I would say even give yourself like the compassion when those days might come too, and you might be tired and you will wake up late and it will be a reactive day. But you could just say, hey, like today, I'll just have to do it tomorrow. It's fine. Or I'll just do it later. It's okay. Today's like my break day. And one thing I didn't mention, it's super important. Most of us try to do the things that's the fastest first on our list. Like if it takes like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But actually, the very first thing to use your golden hour of peak performance and productivity, when you wake up, the very first thing will be the hardest thing, the most complicated, and the thing you do not want to do first. If you look at your top 3, I'm like, I don't want to do that, that's the one you do first.
How many of us though would rather get up and just, what do? Like we go on social media, right? And we start scrolling just sort of mindlessly. And then next thing you know, it's 30 minutes. And that's one thing I've realized speaking personally is, I'll say, I don't have time. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. And then I get the notification on my phone of how long I've been on social media. And I don't even think I'm on social media all that much. And all of a sudden my phone will say, you've been on for 3.5 hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. So I think a lot of times just doing an audit of our time and also our spending can be really helpful, because you might be getting lunch out every day, which is maybe $12. Doesn't seem like a lot, or 15, but when you do that multiple times, that really adds up. And same thing with the phone. You think, I'm just scrolling for 5 minutes here and there. But when you do that, 50 times a day, that's a lot of wasted time. And I'm speaking from personal experience because that's what I was doing. And I have to physically take my phone and put it in a drawer and put it away from me, so that I'm not distracted, because just reflexively, we want to look at it. We want that dopamine hit.
That's what I had to do before too, when I was starting early, to what I call dopamine desensitization. So I had to take my phone out when I work. I still sleep with my phone outside my bedroom currently. So it's not so I don't like reach for it, right away, like you said, to go on social media. And it takes time to build up the discipline to go on your phone and you'll get to a point, I hope, that you're so scared of getting derailed that you do not want to look at your text and WhatsApp or open anything, because you know what happens, and you'll get to a point where you have the discipline to not do it.
And I feel like I'm getting there. Once when you told me about turning off notifications, I turned off everything for the whole day. I didn't get like a beep, not a text, nothing. And then I realized, okay, I can't do that. I at least need to be reachable somehow. But what's really kind of pushing me is, now that I have kids that are tweens, they're going to be getting phones probably in the next few years. And so I don't want them always looking at their phone. And so I don't want them sleeping with a phone in their room. And so I need to kind of model that behavior, because I can't tell them, no, you can't use your phone at night in bed. And then here I am sitting there doing it. So that's really kind of what I'm working on, because I want them to have healthy screen habits and stuff like that. And I can't really tell them to do that if I'm not myself. So now, I did just want anyone listening who might think, well, Dr. Tsung is like a superwoman and that doesn't apply to me. She just has one kid. For everyone listening, she's pregnant with her second. So she is about to have a newborn thrown into the mix very, very soon. And I would just love to hear, how is this going to change what you do? How are you going to still stay productive, stay on track with a newborn? Because that just seems kind of impossible.
Definitely outsource. Like, I already have existing help. The first time I outsourced so much, I had to develop a system. And that goes back to, I hear a lot, like, nobody else can do it better than me. Nobody else knows my kids better or my house better. You can't develop a system and a checklist. And once you find the right person who's resourceful, who can think ahead, then it can't work out. And they just go by the checklist. I've trained like at least 3 house managers that way. So it is possible. You just have to let go of control. With the newborn, my plan, we have the house manager. We're hiring au pair or night doula. That's going to be the main thing, who's going to help, for me to catch up on my sleep. And then the virtual assistant or my executive assistant is going to be helping to manage like the podcast. And then also I built up a bank of a podcast, so I don't have to worry about that. And then the coaching clients, usually I probably come back in like 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So it's going to be okay with that too. So, and I'm thinking about hiring a second executive assistant, either an integrator or another assistant, to kind of offload and to help me scale and train while I'm on maternity leave, and to help me scale, then be ready right when I come back. So that's my plan for the newborn and the delivery process. We'll see how it goes with this delivery. I had a great delivery the first time. I recovered within 2 weeks, was back at the gym on the 3rd week. But you never know. I could have a C-section, etc. Lots of pain, infection, complications, hemorrhage. Who knows?
You're right. That's the thing, right? Life, and God willing, you'll have a healthy baby and everything goes to plan. But the reality is life happens, and you got to be able to, like you said, give yourself grace. Not every day's going to be perfect. Every week's going to be perfect. But these are just kind of like goals to get you on track. And I know that I've really just trying to be really mindful about how I'm spending my time, right? This is our most finite resource, and we don't treat it that way, right? We spend a lot of time wasting it on things that don't really matter. And someone listening may not be a professional. Maybe they are a stay-at-home mom, but being a stay-at-home mom, you're the CEO of your household. And there is so much that goes on to running and managing a household. I just think about my mom, who was a stay-at-home mom. I mean, if my dad had to pay for someone to do all those things, it'd be outrageous. But nowadays, most families are two people working. And so there does have to be some outsourcing. And even if you are a stay-at-home caregiver or, raising the children, you can't do it all, right? And you really do need to get the help if possible, where you can. There are ways. It's not just something for people who have a lot of money, that there are ways to make it work, and just realize like you're already paying for it by you doing it. So is there someone who can maybe do it for less and even better? And I also love how you brought up control, because we're both physicians, type A, but just letting go and realizing like the kids don't have to look perfect and their outfits don't have to match and the house doesn't always have to look clean. I think just being willing to not be perfect all the time is a huge part of moving ahead and having a more full life. So I love that you brought that up.
Now I think about, if we're having a discussion, is this going to matter in like 50 years, 70 years,
or a year even, right? I mean, seriously, a year.
Like we missed like the dose of the probiotics today by like 0.5 ml. Oh well.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. Now, Dr. Tsung, so I would love to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about your skin habits, your skincare routine. Do you ever get frustrated by this, or are you kind of like, oh, I got this?
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I talked to you before this, because I actually didn't think about my skin that much until we talked. And so, before I was always like trying to simplify. And before I had kids, I actually probably cared more about my nails than my skin.
Wow.
And then now I don't even really have time. I don't prioritize time for my nails. But now I'm going to prioritize. Before I would use sunscreen, and I would use like jojoba rosehip oil, which I found was more hydrating for me. Actually, I didn't break out with those oil. So that's what I would use. And then an Aquaphor, and that's it. But after talking to you, knowing, because I always thought it was very complicated, that you said like a lot of my friends use complicated routines or expensive routines.
Yeah.
And so I never dove into it. And then after talking to you, so I have the sunscreen, I got the vitamin C. I've got, what else? I'm making an appointment with dermatology. They're giving me like some afternoon appointments coming up. So going to be seeing them. And so I'm actually prioritizing my skin health care. So thanks to you.
That's awesome. I love to hear it. And yes, you're going to pause on the tretinoin or the retinol until after baby and breastfeeding. But I love to hear that, because I think a lot of times in our 20s and even into our 30s, for a lot of people who are lucky, they don't have any skin issues. You don't have to worry about it. You can just kind of let it go. And then I do find like once you start having kids and you get a little older and you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so it's great to kind of be proactive. And I love that for someone like you who's all about efficiency, right? Like you don't have time for a 10-step skincare routine. Nobody does. And also it's unnecessary. So just like laying a good foundation with basics is really going to take you far. And then you don't need to do a ton of stuff down the road if you take care of your skin now, right? It's all about like prevention and maintenance in my book.
And my habit for myself this month after speaking to you is definitely use the oil-based like makeup remover every single night. I definitely have not built it up to a habit, but I have been in the shower every day since we talked. So that is my habit I'm forming this month.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah. Well, what are some pearls on forming habits? Personally like to know.
It's making it as easy as possible, and you sequence it already next to before after habit you already have.
Yeah, so like habit stacking.
Right, exactly. And the path of least resistance. So essentially, before I was trying to clean my face at the sink, but now I just put the cleanser in the, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people do this. They just do it in the shower, but I didn't. Now I put the cleanser in the shower. And I would stack it either before or after I brush my teeth in the shower. That's another like efficiency for me too. Just do it all in there. So it's been working out so far.
I'll tell people when they forget to wear sunscreen every day, I'm like, put it by your toothbrush. Because most people, although I did have one patient tell me, oh, I don't brush my teeth every day, but 99.9% of people, I believe, brush their teeth every day. In fact, twice a day, right? And so I'll say, put the sunscreen right by your toothbrush because you will see it. It's right there. You don't think about, should I brush my teeth today? So you shouldn't think about, should I wear sunscreen? It should just be, brush teeth, put on my sunscreen, ready for the day. Dr. Tsung, did you notice any changes in your skin during pregnancy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now, too. But with my first pregnancy, I didn't, have the stretch marks after, but, there's the very, in the abdomen,
linea nigra?
Yes,
line,
exactly.
Line?
Yeah. That has disappeared after the first pregnancy, but now I see it coming back again. And then my legs have become drier with easier bruising and just with the itching too. Then you scratch and then it stays on the after effects, kind of like maybe the abrasions from the scratching stay on for longer.
You probably are getting a little like hyperpigmentation, some darkening of the skin from that. So well, make sure, here's a little tip for you. Make sure to put on a thick moisturizer as soon as you get out of the shower to help lock in that moisture.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. More Aquaphor, like lots more Aquaphor essential oil, and that's been helping. But yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people have skin issues with pregnancy, and it's definitely very different. I'm just like scratching everywhere.
I feel like it goes like either one way or the other. Either your skin's like amazing, your hair is amazing, you're glowing, or you're breaking out and it's, the opposite. But so that's good that you seem sort of in the middle, some dry skin. But Aquaphor, a thick petrolatum-based product is great for all that. So keep up with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just like 5 more weeks to go of this. So hopefully it goes well.
That's right. Well, Dr. Tsung, this has been super educational for me and definitely productivity, efficiency. This is something that I'm really striving for in 2024 in sort of all aspects of my life. And I think as moms, professionals, it's something, I don't want to say a struggle, but it's something that we have to be aware of and sort of balance. And I'm sure even for you, and you can tell me if this is the case or not, it's not like you're like, oh, check, I'm good. I'm efficient and productive. I'm sure this is something that always kind of ebbs and flows and you're always making changes to it. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Some people feel like being productive is productive in work, but actually being productive is being productive or have peak performance and is in all aspects of your life. So when you're with your kids, you're present with your kids and having quality time. That's productive time. When you're with your significant other, you are compassionate, you're patient, you're non-judgmental. That's productive time with your significant other. So it's not just productive in professional lives, essentially. Life isn't about balance in everything, but it's about balancing all aspects. Some days you're balancing your child. Some days you're balancing yourself more. Some days you're balancing your spouse more. It's not like every day it's all even. That gets really hard. And one thing I will say, you don't have to go to a sensory deprivation flow to activate your parasympathetic system. If you ever feel stressed out, then I do something called 4-7-8 breathing. So 4 times. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, and then you breathe out for 8 seconds. So I do that 4 times. But what's important is that your exhale is longer than your inhale and your breath hold. And after you do that 4 times, you will expect like a calmer feeling and you won't be in such a fight or flight mode and you can respond less reactive. And you can do this with people watching you. Nobody knows how many seconds you're breathing in or how slow you're exhaling.
Mm-hmm, right. It's not like you're going to draw attention to yourself. But it always shocks me how like something so simple as breathing can make such a difference. And it's so powerful. It's really, really amazing. So I love that. Sometimes I've tried that box breathing, but I'll have to give this one a try. That's pretty cool.
It's very similar. Just exhaling longer. That's it.
Got it. Well, love this. Dr. Tsung, can you just share sort of your top 3 pearls for a busy parent, a busy mom, busy professional who wants to be more productive and who wants to be more present? And also, I love how you mentioned, like, I think a lot of times we think productivity is busy, right? And a lot of times the busyness is actually unproductive. So I love that you brought that up. But well, I would love to just kind of end with your top 3 tips for being more productive, more present for the audience.
Well, like you said, number 1 is to look at everything that you're doing and eliminating anything that's truly not going to make a difference down the line. Number 2 is jot down your top 5 goals for the year if you haven't, since this is early in the year. And again, one should be for yourself, one should be for your significant other, and you split up your significant other from your kids. Like they get a whole separate category.
Because they're different people.
I know. They're different people. They love date nights into family nights. It's like, it's not the same. Then 2 professional goals, if you have any. And then look at that list even further and just keep eliminating anything that's not moving the needle towards that 5 goals. And then the third thing is, make a commitment, make a decision now. Either like find a way to eliminate distractions. So that is either right now, you set your top 3 priorities for the day tomorrow, or you turn your phone to grayscale. You can just Google how to do it. Shortcut to turn your phone to grayscale. You can flip to color quickly with the shortcut if needed, like 3 clicks button. Or you can make a decision now to not bring your phone into your bedroom. Whatever you decide now, right after this podcast, to take one action and move forward. That will give you the momentum to help you keep going.
Yeah, just pick one thing and stick with it until it is a habit. And I put my phone in my closet and I am doing the thing with the email, and I'm amazed how I'm not missing anything. And in fact, it's freeing. So great tips. I love it. So insightful. Dr. Tsung, if people want to follow you, learn more about what you're doing, your podcast, can you share with us your handle and where they can find you?
So the podcast, it's Productivity MD if you search for it. Also, my website is productivitymd.com. If you're interested in, learning about one-on-one coaching, or the link to the Facebook Mastermind is there as well. The link to the podcast episode page is there as well. You can go there, book a 30-minute discovery call with me. And then all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, the handle is Tsung MD. So ANNTSUNG MD. But you can get there through my website as well.
I will include all that in the show notes so people can just easily click on it. And the podcasting, your coaching, it's not just for doctors, right? It's not just for MDs. So if someone's listening, they're not a doctor, right? They can still get a lot of value out of it. So great tips. I'll have to bring you back on in like 8 months and see how life is with baby and get some more pearls for how to manage all that. So thank you, Dr. Tsung, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thank you, Dr. Mina. Really appreciate everyone's attention and presence. Thank you.
That's all I've got for this week's episode of the Skin Real podcast. But here's some great news. One of the most valuable things you can do to help me and other new potential listeners to find my show is for you to both rate this show and leave a review. So as a special bonus for you, if you leave me a review, take a screenshot and email it to info@theskinreal.com, and I will send you a thank you free PDF on skincare truths versus hype, because I love spreading the word of good, truthful skincare. And please be sure to share with your skin friends so that we can get the word out there about real skin. And until next time, remember, no matter where you are in your skincare journey, always remember to love the skin you're in, because real skincare from real experts can be real simple.